Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 21st, and right now we are looking at a mishmash of Doppler radars here across the Pacific Northwest down towards Utah, Colorado here. And you can see this is the excessive rainfall outlook here, highlighted by this green. You can see the yellow means slight risk of excessive rainfall, and down here they've even got some moderate for portions of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. Kind of unusual scenario here where that excessive rainfall outlook actually overlays portions of an enhanced fire risk through eastern Washington. But you can see the spin in the atmosphere here with this upper level low. The monsoon moisture continues to flow up ahead of that here, and that's what's going to bring some of this precipitation across the region here. Let's go ahead and look at day 2 as well. This is kind of interesting. I'll show you this. You can see that slight risk does exist for actually just east of Spokane. It eclipses Washington a bit, Idaho Panhandle and western Montana. And some of this does include northeast Oregon for the marginal portions of that excessive rainfall outlook as we go on into tomorrow. As this upper level low ejects, it's probably going to bring some areas of heavy rain, but not a huge overall washout across the area here. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail here coming up. Now you can see that upper level low finally starting to move inland here and pushing up across the region, bringing some high and mid-level clouds across Washington. But then you can see this ridge over the top of us going to bring us another warm day across the region here for the most part. Portland, Seattle, for example. As you can see, there's another system lurking out here. It's going to finally move through this weekend. So checking out a little bit closer, look at this smoke coming in here from the Bolt Creek fire, the White River fire. I believe it's the Irving fire out here, kind of moving eastbound. If you're in the Puget Sound here, you're noticing the smoke this morning. I could see just kind of really dense smoke off to the west here of me near SeaTac, Washington, as we speak. You can see the low stratus layer across the coastal areas of Washington, Oregon here. But really the big news for Western Washington is the smoke kind of being pumped into the region. The good news is that shortly this surface wind should start to bring a westerly component during the day today and start to kick some of that out. We'll check that out here coming up. But you can see some of this monsoon moisture spreading up through Idaho, and this is going to move up towards Montana and continue on through tomorrow as well, as this upper level low helps direct some of that moisture northward. Now here's for today, convective outlook. You can see this is mainly a wind threat. There is some hail threat existing with this, but you can see up through Utah into Idaho, including Pocatello. There is that wind and hail threat for the area here on day 1. If we go to day 2, you can kind of see they backed it down to just a marginal risk. It may upgrade some areas here as we go on in through tomorrow. But taking a look here, this is what's called a mesoscale discussion. Some of the good information that the Storm Prediction Center will release kind of in short term. It shows strong to severe storms capable of damaging wind gusts and isolated hail possible this afternoon. Gives it all kinds of good meteorological discussion here with good dew points moving in the area, some instability and some good shear. But just thought I'd show you guys that here. Storm Prediction Center puts out a lot of good information. Checking out Flagstaff, Arizona. Look at this. Moderate risk. Numerous flash floods are likely in this area. It does include Flagstaff and Grand Canyon here. So heads up if you're traveling down there, if you have any concerns down there through Arizona up towards Utah, New Mexico, Colorado here. And you can see some flash flood warnings actually off to the west there of Phoenix currently. Now back to the Pacific Northwest here, you can see the air quality alert, Cedar Creek fire here, continuing to pump out smoke, kind of obscured by the clouds, so we couldn't really see it this morning. Dense fog advisory was in effect this morning with that stratus layer along the coastline as well. Looking at Seattle yesterday, 78, 7 degrees above average, continuing our nice warm weather the last 3 days across the region. Another warm day coming up here before we start to cool down as we go on into this weekend. We'll take a look at that here coming up. You can see those 3 days. And our meager precipitation amounts continue on in through September, even though we did get a little bit of localized rain there on the 16th. Now there's that Bolt Creek fire, Irving Peak, White River, Minnow Ridge. It's kind of been pumping that smoke into western Washington here, kind of a big newsmaker here across the region. Here's the recent run here, 8 meters above the ground. And if we put this into motion, you can kind of see it start to kick off to the west here. Should start here in the next couple hours if it hasn't already. But still, we've got to clear out quite a bit of smoke, and the flow is not going to be that strong initially. But you can see that kind of kicking off to the east. And of course, then that starts to introduce smoke to areas like Wenatchee and Chelan and portions of eastern Washington as well. So you can't really win with the forest fire smoke around. Now here's looking at vertically integrated smoke here, and this is mainly smoke aloft that's going to be moving back across the Puget Sound in through tonight. I'll show you some of the winds at different elevations here and why that is the case, why that's different from the surface winds coming up here. This is looking at the NAM3KM 80-meter wind speeds. You can see as we go through today, it looks like about, it's 11 o'clock right now. And as we go through this afternoon, you'll notice that northwest flow here. Maybe they'll start to chop down some of that smoke and push it back into the Cascades and off to the east here as we go. Now, as you can see, as we go through Thursday morning, you see some of this southerly flow come through the Puget Sound. So we should be cleaning out the atmosphere here as we go through Thursday morning. But, we're having to deal with this nasty smoke here this morning across western Washington. It's not fun. Now, looking at 850 millibars Pacific Northwest flow here, you can see that easterly flow does exist as we go on in through this morning. But then you can see that kind of turn back around. What is that, about 1 o'clock? It starts to get that westerly component back to it. And so this should help clean out the atmosphere at 5,000 feet. But let me show you 10,000 feet here coming up. And you can see that weak system kind of approaching here from the west as we get towards Friday. And you can see the winds really raging across the eastern slopes of the Cascades and on in through eastern Washington by Friday morning. Now, taking a look here, this is 10,000 feet. You can plainly see that easterly flow coming all the way out across the coastline at 10,000 feet. And you see this east wind continue on in through Wednesday afternoon. There's still some easterly component even as we go on in through tonight. Becomes northeasterly as we go into tomorrow morning. Then we flip around as we go on through Thursday morning. So then we'll clear out even the smoke aloft here for western Washington. And even the Cedar Creek fire smoke is going to eventually get shunted off to the west here as well as we go through the overnight hours tonight. So a nice relief coming for western portions. And man, you can really see that smoke increasing at my house as we speak here. Check this out. We're getting down right into unhealthy conditions here. After not bad conditions, we kind of been ebbing and flowing as the smoke makes its way down the Puget Sound here. And we are back into the smoke here across southern central Puget Sound as we speak. Now, taking a look here at NAM3KM, total precipitation in inches. You can see that upper level low plainly here moving across Oregon. That monsoon moisture moving up through Idaho today. But you can see some pretty heavy precipitation amounts, but not everybody gets those big amounts. Look at some of this slopes on the east slopes of the Cascades of Oregon. They're getting some pretty decent amounts here as well. But look at some of this precipitation, man, moving up through western Montana as we go on into tomorrow afternoon. That's why that excessive rainfall outlook is in effect there, slight for tomorrow as well. So that, some of that precipitation is much needed, but we don't want to get too much where we start causing flooding problems there. And as we go on into the extended a little bit more, you can see that really weak system approaching from the west here, maybe bringing a little bit of sprinkle, some light precip to western Washington, British Columbia, the coastline, Vancouver Island. And we'll watch that a little bit closer as we get into that tomorrow. Now, taking a look here, this is the 850 millibar temperature anomaly. So as we put this into motion here, there goes that ridge over the top of us, and then that upper level low swings through the area. That weak system slides through this weekend, and then we start to bounce back as we go on in towards Sunday. Now, this is yesterday afternoon's run. You can see some heat building across the up into the Canadian prairies here. It does get western Washington a bit, but you notice it's not that long-lived as we get some cooler air back in here as we go on in through mid next week. So a couple warm days look likely next week, but no heat wave or anything of that nature. And then way off into Fantasyland here, maybe another warm day or two as we're still watching for that main pattern change. Models not latching on to anything just yet. Now, here's the European on the left, GFS on the right. Let's check it out. Do a model comparison again. You can see that upper level low move across western Montana. And then we get that system swinging through. We start to try to build this ridge as we go. You can see the GFS a little bit further to the east with this ridge here, mainly across eastern Washington and Idaho, a little bit further off to the west here on the European. But both models kind of kick that ridge a little bit further to the east rather quickly as we start to bring some marine influence to western portions here as we go through Tuesday and on into Wednesday of next week. So it looks like a couple warm days, though, might be coming up here Sunday, Monday, We'll continue to watch that and try to pinpoint those days. You can see both the European and the GFS still bringing a tropical system into the Gulf of Mexico through the extended here. So weather Twitter is going to be going nuts with those model runs coming up here. Now taking a look at the GFS, this is the ensemble mean. This is hot off the presses 12Z, so let's update that and make sure we have the most recent information here. There goes this upper level low across the region here, bringing that precipitation. Looks like it bullseyes Idaho Panhandle and western Montana. So heads up for that. Weak system moves through. I mean, it's barely picking up any precipitation. This front is just dying rapidly as it gets in here. Notice the storm tracks stay mainly Vancouver Island northward as we go on in through early next week. A weak frontal system looks like it falls apart again as we go towards the mid portion of the week, but we should start to get some marine influence across the region here. Gulf of Alaska trough trying to get going, but no big systems there showing up on in through the extended as of now. So we'll continue to watch that. Now looking at Seattle, Tacoma, a nice warm day today. Then you see that system going through BC, cooling us down through this weekend. Then a bit of a bounce back for maybe 2-3 days before we start to head back towards more seasonable temperatures here on in through the extended. Rogue Valley, Medford, you can see maybe a nice warm up as we go through the weekend and on in through early next week before we drop back down. This upper level low moves through. You can see the suppressed temperatures here as we go through today and tomorrow. Pendleton, Oregon here, you see that little bump up here. So we'll see how this continues to look here. We'll check that out day by day as it looks like we're going to warm up here later this weekend on in through early next week. Same thing for Vancouver International. I mean, you see these temperatures up in the mid, maybe upper 60s here at this point. You see that system moving through Thursday, Friday, Saturday before it start to warm back up a little bit again here. But the storm track, although it is weak, is going to be near western BC through the extended, so probably some onshore flow here. So as you can see, no heat wave coming for western portions, but you can see Portland does warm up quite nicely here according to the European as we go on into this weekend, noticeably warmer than Seattle and Vancouver, for example, before we start to get a little bit more seasonable in the extended. This is Spokane, actually not even as warm as Portland there as we go on in through early next week as well. Now checking out a story, I just wanted to kind of look at the extended forecast here. You can see that there are a few ensemble runs that do have some nice wet systems as they move through the area here, but you can see a lot of them are still dry or very small amounts of precipitation as we go. And you can see the system kind of trying to making its way through this weekend. Very dry, very little precipitation associated with that. Just general cool down and marine influence associated there. Seattle, Tacoma, kind of similar here, showing a few systems possible in some of the ensemble runs here, but no big signal here. You can see the ensemble mean and the control runs are just kind of like, meh, these systems are fairly weak right now. This can change rapidly at this point. We're starting to get towards later September and into early October, so things can switch around rapidly, but right now we're not seeing a strong signal for that. This is Quileute, Washington. A little bit of a fantasy windstorm hunt here. You can see one of these, actually a couple of these ensembles go over 50 miles per hour out here. This is way out here into early October. Purely fantasy, entertainment only at this point. But you can see we're starting to get to that time of year where some of these ensemble runs left alone can start bring in some wacky conclusions here, but you never know. It's just something for entertainment at this point. You can see at 49 miles per hour here, 54, 53. But again, as you see, the vast majority of the ensemble members have very little wind and don't show any kind of organized system impacting the Pacific Northwest as of yet. This was issued yesterday at the 14-day temperature outlook. You notice that he just kind of bullseyes off towards the northern plains and some of Montana and Wyoming at this point. Still have that signal for some above average temperatures here across the Pacific Northwest though. But now check this out as we go September 28th to October 4th, picking up on a little bit of a signal here across western Washington. This would extend up towards British Columbia as well. And look at this monsoon season, just never ending. What an insane monsoon season down here across Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and off into, portions of Nevada and the California desert. It's just a memorable monsoon season coming up there. Now, taking a look here, I just thought you guys would like to see the sea surface temperature anomalies here. And this is for going all the way out to, for July. Now we're into early August, late August, and now into September. You can see La Nina is in control across the equatorial Pacific Ocean here. You can see some warm water tries to get involved here, but by the time it gets out across the central Pacific Ocean here, you can plainly see the upwelling occurring. La Nina is in charge. When this reverses, you'll notice this is much warmer and it will bank up, and you'll start to see oranges and yellows and all kinds of colors banked up against the coast of South America when El Nino returns to the area here. But right now we are strictly borderline moderate La Nina at this time. And I can kind of see this. This is just the sea surface temperature by itself. You can see how much warmer the Western Pacific is here versus the Eastern Pacific. You can see that cold water extend all the way across the equatorial Pacific Ocean here as we go. So again, you'll start to see a lot more of yellow and orange when El Nino gets going and banks up against the coast of South America and kind of changes the dynamic circulation of the Pacific Ocean here. And that's something we'll watch here for the next couple of years. But right now, we are still in La Nina state. It's expected to continue on in through this year and possibly into early next year as well. We'll continue to watch that also. So yeah, there goes that upper level low finally starting to kick up and out of here. It's going to remain across this area for the next couple of days here. Then we're going to bring that weak system and maybe a few more warm days after that. And we're always checking out the extended, trying to watch out for the first signs of an organized system moving through the Pacific Northwest. We don't see it yet though, however, but we'll continue to watch day by day, do some fantasy windstorm hunts and whatnot in the meantime. But yeah, get out there and enjoy the weather if you can, unless you're in Western Washington and you're trapped in that thick smoke still going on here. There should be some relief coming today, at least at the surface, as we get some westerly component to those winds across the area. But again, then we're going to start to kick it off into Eastern Washington again, and everybody over there probably is not going to like that also. But anyway, at least the winds will be picking up in the next few days as the system swings through and at least cleans the air out a little bit, and it'll kind of localize that forest fire smoke a little bit more. So yeah, watch out for these thunderstorms moving across up into Idaho and western Montana today and tomorrow, and some of that precipitation could get into Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon. You can plainly set upper level low, bringing that precipitation across the region there. So anyway, we will continue to do this day by day here. We'll continue to watch that extended forecast. Hope you guys are enjoying these videos. Click like and subscribe, and we'll talk again tomorrow.